Hi friends, it's Chari. Today I am creating this cute woodland cabin platform pop-up card using those cute little beavers from So Damn Much. So I'm starting out by building my cabin using the Build a Cabin dies. I'm going to use this light wood grain from the Knock on Wood paper. I've cut it down so I can cut my cabin with my wood grain going left to right, horizontal like the logs of the cabin. I've cut out all my other pieces here, and for the front door, I cut this from some white wood grain cardstock, and I'm just trimming that off so that I can layer it over top of the door that the die creates and have a white wood grain door. So this is kind of Valentine in color, but it is a thinking of you card, so it could be used for any occasion. You could always change up the colors on the cabin as well if you didn't want to do it in pinks and reds. So for all the frames, the door frame here, I'm using some Ballet Slipper cardstock, which is that lighter pink. I've also cut the window frames from that, which I will adhere down in just a moment. And for the roof, I have some Guava Cardstock, so it's that darker pink color. And I'm just lining that up with the top. I'll use my tweezers to add glue to these really thin frames that go around the windows, but now my window frames will match my door frame with that light pink color. And I actually really like these pink colors with that brown wood grain. I just think that is a really fun look. So those fit right around those window openings. And then for my chimney, I've cut the chimney from some narwhal cardstock, and then I cut the top from some storm cloud cardstock. So I'll just go ahead and add that top trim piece to my chimney. I'm not going to glue it on just quite yet. I'll just set that aside. I'm just scraping away any extra glue that came out. I'm going to end up putting that on the right side of the cabin. And then I have the little heart sign. Now I'm not using the hanger that comes with the sign. I'm just using the heart. And I've cut this heart from some red textured canvas cardstock. So this is from the red pack. And then I'm tracing around that little groove that the die creates with a white gel pen to create a white frame. Now I can add my chimney to that right side. And then I'm just doing a little bit of measuring. I have a piece of yellow spiffy speckles paper. I'm going to cut that to 2.5 inches square. And then I'm going to lay this on top of my cabin and just use a pencil to mark kind of how high it needs to be cut so that it will fit behind my door and my windows. I am not going to have the door of this open since I'm putting this on a platform pop-up card and I need for everything to fold nice and flat. I'm just going to glue it shut with this yellow paper, and this will create a really fun glow inside the cabin. Now, you are going to see the back of this cabin since it is a platform pop-up and I'm not using the add-on that goes in the background. So I've cut a second cabin from that same wood grain paper and I'm just layering that on the back side. Now it does still cut the windows and the door, so I am going to address that with some frames, but I'm not going to add the white door, so I don't want this to look exactly like the front. I'm using the same Ballet Slipper cardstock for the frames and that same Guava cardstock for the roof. So I'm making sure it's dressed up a little bit, but not as much detail as the front of the house. So I'll just add that second frame, and then of course I have the door frame as well. So this is what it would look like if you did not layer another colored cardstock over the door. You would have a door the same color as the cabin. Now I glued these together before I remembered that I wanted to sandwich my T-piece that goes inside my platform pop-up between the two layers of the cabin. So I carefully pulled those two layers apart, and then I'm going to insert the top of this T-piece and glue it down. So now basically my cabin, my whole cabin is my insert. I also thought it would be really fun to have a little heart-shaped doorknob, so I'm adding a little tiny guava heart to the door. And then now I'm going to cut some green spiffy speckles paper to cut my platform pop-up from. So this is going to give me some green grass as the base for my little cabin to sit on. So of course I've cut this into two 6x6 squares, and I'll just cut 2 of the platform pop-up pieces. Then I'm also going to cut a strip that is 1.5 inches long or wide. It's the full length of the paper, so it's 12 inches long. I will end up cutting this into 2 6-inch long strips, but this is going to be the little garden that I wrap around the outside of the box. So I've used the hearts for the garden border die, cut out some Ballet Slipper cardstock, some Guava cardstock, and also that same red textured canvas cardstock. So all the colors of my heart flowers is going to match the colors on my cabin. Now for this long strip, here I am cutting it into 2 6-inch pieces so that I can cut 2 garden borders. And I'm just going to darken this up with some freshly cut grass ink so that it is not exactly the same color as the outside of the box. So I'm starting actually at the bottom and pulling the color up. So the grass will be the darkest part, and then it will go up to a little bit lighter close to the tops of my flowers. But this will give me some contrasting green against the spiffy speckles box that is the platform pop-up. So I'm just inking both pieces, and then I'll cut out my garden border. Now the reason I cut it as 1.5 inches tall is because I knew that that was about the height I needed to cut to wrap around the box. So I did measure that prior to cutting these pieces. I'll just hold that in place with some tape, and then here I have my 2 garden borders with that darker green color. Now I can add it to my box, but before I do that, I want to fold on all the score lines. I'm going to fold both of my pieces. This is going to allow me to see where those folds are and kind of line up my garden. And you're going to see what I mean here in just a moment. So I'm going ahead, folding on all the score lines. I will also go ahead and put my double-sided adhesive onto my tabs. So of course there's the long tab on each of these pieces, and then the short tab where the box wraps around. And then for my garden, I'm actually going to take this, and you see where the folds are? I want it to not fold where a flower is, so I'm just kind of checking it. And I know that between those 2 taller flowers, I can fit that whole portion on the front panel. So I'm going to put a little bit of liquid glue on the back of all my hearts and a few dots on the stems. And then I'm actually going to take the skinny double-sided tape, put it all the way along the bottom. So I'm folding the sides in so that I can just see that center panel. This allows me to see it a little bit better. And then I'm pulling off that liner tape, and I'm just going to line it up to where all 5 of those hearts fit perfectly on that panel. Then I can unfold it and line up the other pieces, and then fold the grass. Make sure everything's stuck down, and then I'll just trim off the excess. So I'll have a little bit extra length on each side that I can just trim off, and I'll do this same process on that second piece of the platform pop-up box. Now that I have both of those onto the platform pop-up, I can go ahead and start to add my hearts. And I'm just working my way from the center kind of out, varying where the colors are so that I don't have any 2 right next to each other. Now this piece is the front of my card, and for the back piece I just kind of used what colors I had left over, but it worked out pretty well where I didn't have any 2 right next to each other. Now I did cut one of the grassy inserts from that same spiffy speckles, and then I'm using that same freshly cut grass ink to darken up the top edge. I'll add this to my second T that goes in my box, so this one will be in the foreground. And I'm not adding a third one. At first, I wasn't sure that I wanted anything in the middle. I did end up adding something, but I did not need the T piece to do that. So you'll see that here in a little bit. So I'm going ahead and building my box by putting the two long pieces together. Then I'm going to fold up each of the little platform areas. And now I will add my T's. So this is the front of the box. I'm just going to fold that bottom of the T, add a little bit of double-sided adhesive, and I want to make sure my grass faces the front of the box. So I'll just slide that in there, make sure it's snug, and stick it down so you can see there what that's going to look like. Now for the cabin, I want that one to face me because this is the back of the box. So again, I've just folded the tab on the bottom of the T, added some double-sided tape, and then I'll just slide that in the slot, make sure it's nice and snug down, and then push that adhesive down. So you can see how that is going to look. Now I want to add adhesive to this rectangular piece. Again, I'm not adding that third T to the center. I'll pull off the liner paper from those as well as the tab, and then I can close my box up by lining up the two rectangular areas and then pressing that tab together. So I decided once I had it that there was a lot of space and a lot of emptiness between the cabin and the grass. So that is why I'm adding some critters. So I have these cute little hugging beavers from the So Damn Much mini set, and I'm just coloring those with some E70s. This is kind of a different color, not that reddish brown. It's kind of more of a taupey gray brown, and I like to use this color for my critters sometimes just for something a little bit different. So I started out with the E71 and went all over with that color. Then I went in with some shadows with the E74, and now I'm blending it out with the E71. Now I'm going to pull out the darker E70s. There's an E77 and an E79, and that's what I'm going to use for the tails. So I've gone all over with that E77, and then I'll use the E79 as the shadow at the very bottom, because that is a very dark brown color. Now for their noses, I want them to be shiny, like their wet noses. So I'm going to pull out my black glaze pen and just add a little bit of shiny black to their noses. You don't even need to color it in with a black marker beforehand. You can just use that glaze pen directly on that white cardstock. And then I decided to be a little different this time and fussy cut my beavers so that they match the die cuts. This whole card is all die cuts so far. So I kind of wanted them to match a little better and not have that white border that the die creates. So I'm fussy cutting these out since I only have this one image. It's not a big deal. And then I'm going to go around the outside edge with a black marker so that you don't see that white edge where the cut is. It's just an added extra detail that makes it look really finished. So now I have my cute little beavers. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the bottom of them, and I'm going to just tuck them into that fold where the two pieces come together. I'm going to shift them over to the left side as well. So by doing this, you can see that having that T piece really wouldn't have worked very well anyway because you would have seen it. This is a really good way to kind of add something to that center area without needing the T piece. And then you don't have to worry about covering it up with grass or anything else. So those cute little beavers really finished it off better and kind of filled it in more. But as you can see, there's no sentiment on this just yet. But don't worry, I have a plan for the sentiment, something a little bit different. I'm going to pull out my Chit Chat stamp set. So this is a bunch of sentiments in speech bubbles. I'm pulling out the thinking of you. I thought this was really cute. It kind of looked like smoke, and it's going to come out of the chimney. I'm stamping it in some black ink on some fog cardstock. And you're going to get this really bold sentiment because this one is one of the solid stamps in the set. I just love this stamp set. I just think that these sentiments are so fun. Then of course I'm going to cut that out with the coordinating die. And then I'll have this little sentiment bubble. And honestly, any of those sentiments would work in this idea, in this situation with it coming out of the chimney. I just think it's a really fun idea. It could say congrats or hi, any of those would work. I decided to glue this onto the front so that you could still see the little point rather than hiding that behind the chimney. And I just think that that is a really fun, unique look for the sentiment. Of course, I needed to add some glitter before this was done, so I'm just tracing around my little heart with the glitter. I like that you can see the white line still through the glitter. Kind of makes it stand out even more. And then I'm going to add some glitter just to the hearts on the front and only to the ones that were cut from some smooth cardstock. So I did not add glitter to the red hearts. I skipped those and only added them to the light pink and the dark pink. And then here is my finished card. I just think it's so cute. When you push that platform up, those little beavers pop up from behind the grass in front of that cabin. I love the cabin as the background, just kind of a different look for a platform pop-up card. Thanks so much for watching. Have an amazing day. Bye.